And now to say a few words, I'd like to welcome to the podium our President and CEO, Devon Holt.
Welcome to the Muhammad Ali Center. Good morning. Who is visiting the Muhammad Ali Center for the first time this morning? Raise your hand. All right, we've got a few newcomers here. I need everyone to join me in helping to make them feel welcome in this space today. I want you to know that you are not only visiting a 96,000 square foot facility that is dedicated to the life and legacy of Muhammad Ali. This is in fact the home where greatness lives here at the Muhammad Ali Center. We are a cultural center that is focused on not just sharing this incredible journey that Muhammad lived and this incredible example that he paid for us. We're also a place that is committed to helping people identify, find, nurture, and mature in their own greatness. And so today, with our Daughters of Greatness program, we have the last in our 2024 series, an opportunity to shine a very bright light on a guest today who I can't wait for you guys to hear more about what she's doing to make the world a better place. And that's in fact really what we are committed to. As much as many of us know and recognize Muhammad Ali as an incredible boxer, an incredible athlete, and the Louisville Lip, he also was one of the world's greatest humanitarians. And we acknowledge the fact that he built a living by knocking people out, but he built a life by picking people up. Yes. And it's that picking people up part here at the Daughters of Greatness that we lean into, that we want to make sure that we are pausing to celebrate and acknowledge great work that is happening all around the world. And so when you come into this space today and into the future, know that we are recognizing and celebrating people who are going out of their way to make great strides to make our world a better place. And it's important that we do that, particularly now when so many of us see the world through dark-colored lenses. And I believe that there is hope. There's hope in every corner of this universe because we have this gift in Muhammad, who was a global citizen. And if I could show you my inbox and let you listen to my messages from people from literally all around the world who quite frankly don't know who Devon Holt is, probably wouldn't care who Devon Holt is if I were not connected to this name, this brand, this icon who meant so much to the world. We're fortunate that he was born and raised here in Louisville, Kentucky, and that this was the place he called home and the place that he wanted his legacy to be established in this center. But we are fortunate that there's so many people still from around the world who love, celebrate, and acknowledge all that he meant. And so today, that legacy continues with the Daughters of Greatness program. I thank you guys for being here and encourage you to continue to show up to support the work of the Muhammad Ali Center. We just recently celebrated our 19th anniversary and making big plans in November 2025 to celebrate our 20th anniversary. So we ask that you guys stay connected, stay locked in, continue to watch because we're going to get bigger and better along the way. Thank you guys for being here.
Yes, yes. 2025 is going to be a big year at the Ali Center. You all stick around with us. Now it is my pleasure to welcome to the podium a great friend of mine who's going to introduce our daughter today. Dr. Amani Katana is really the embodiment of Muhammad's quote, "Service to others is the rent I pay for my room here on earth." She's an incredible member of our board of directors and a supporter of the Ali Center, and I'm so grateful that she's here today to introduce our daughter.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this great event to recognize our awardee for today. My name is Amani Kittani. I am a faculty staff at University of Kentucky, board member with Muhammad Ali Center, and the president and founder of the BSDOF, the International Non-Profit Relief in Cooperation. Today, we have the privilege of being in the presence of a true human rights activist, and community development expert whose focus is on girls' education. Our awardee has dedicated her time to educate more than 7,000 girls and boys in Afghanistan and train more than 80 teachers in digital literacy. But it's not only her advocacy achievement that make her special. Our awardee was named as an education champion by the Malala Fund for her outstanding work to advance the girls' education in Afghanistan. She also was the global youth representative for Amnesty International and served on a committee of the climate change. She also was the winner of 2021 Tolsberg SNF Ellison Emerging Leader Prize, which recognizes leaders who have addressed complicated global challenges in innovative ways. She was among the BBC and the Times 100 Influential Women list in 2021. She also was the 2023 Humanitarian Award of Muhammad Ali. Today, our awardee will be sharing her insight on how we can create a more bright future through advocacy and faith. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and empowered to take action. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to the exceptional awardee, Pashtana Durrani.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Amani, please go eat something. I've been worried about that. So when I won the awards, as you said, I have won multiple awards and I'm not shy about it. But every time I tell my mom, I'm like, I won this award. Mom's like, whatever, okay, good for you. And then I tell her, I get an email from Ed and I tell her, I'm like, I got the Muhammad Ali award. And my mom's like, what? She knew who he was. My mom has never been out of Afghanistan and Pakistan. She knew who Muhammad Ali was. I told my siblings, everybody that everybody knew who Muhammad Ali was. And I think that's one of the reasons it takes different and immense honor for me to be here, to be able to share this platform, to be part of this journey. So thank you so much for having me here. We're gonna start this with a video, and I hope you enjoy this video. This is from our students. We sent this in summer, and you'll hear from them. So thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. به نام خدا فرزند اخلاقی هستم. از آل بلد صنف 12 هستم. که من پارسال بود من این کار خبر شدم از دوستایی که در چون جایی تدریس میکنن. خواست اینجا آمدم از روزی که از صنف 7 شروع کردیم درسانم. از روزی که من اینجا آمدم خیلی تغییرات پیش اومدن، مخصوص در ریاضی خیلی بهتر کردیم، خیلی مشکلاتم حل شده، درسای خیلی درسایش عالی هستن، از درسای از هر چیزش راضی هستم، از استادایش هم همینطور، از درسای خیلی تغییرات آمدن. دیگر ما از روزی که ما نکر محروم شدیم اینجا بر ما خیلی یک فرصت مهیا میشد. از شما خیلی تشکر میکنیم که همچون فرصت در ما دادیم که ما بتونیم درس بخونیم در همچون شرایطی. ما یو کس په دې مکتب کې زده کړې کړې دي او شپږ مهالونه ته تدریس شوي
كيمياء فيزيك رياضي بيولوجي كيمياء انجليزي كمبيوتر او سبيانا زدا بمزاني خاص كريم باريما زدير من هندويا زدي مسيت خدمات بناس اختو شرائط كده زمينا ما كره او ما هم لا دكتور سي زدير من هندويا سلام اوما زنی هستم در یک از شاگردان من که به تازگی در سال اسلامی شرکت کردم و بسیار خوشحال هستم که این زمینه به ما فراهم شده و این فرصت به ما مهیا شده که در این صنف شنا کنیم. در طول صنف دوستای زیادی پیدا کردم که ما در اوقات فراغت خود با هم بازی‌های دوستانه می‌کنیم و همچنان به سر درس خود تمرکز زیادی داریم. من واقعا خوشحال هستم که این زمینه به ما فراهم شده به دختران افغانی که از علم و دانش
All right, so these are our students from the past 3 years. The reason I wanted to share this video, as you can see, we're not very good with our editing skills. We're still trying. But the reason I wanted to share that is I have only met my student once as a teacher. It's very hard for those of you who are educators. It's very hard to be away from your students. And I have met them only once, and I was smuggled in and smuggled out, and I met them only for a few hours, and I got to hang out with them, I got to talk to them, but I don't have the privilege to teach them. I go to Harvard to learn how to teach students, but I don't know if I will ever be able to do that. The reason I shared this was to make sure that Pashtuna Durrani is spoken in these halls, in these amazing halls, but also importantly, that the fact that people don't believe that girls of Afghanistan have such conviction, that it's an alien idea to go to school. Girls will walk to school even if it's banned. Their parents will make sure that they walk to school even if it's banned, because the hunger for learning, it's very deep-rooted. We love learning. So a little about Learn, what we have done, where we come from. In 2018, Learn was founded because I come from the tribal and rural regions of Afghanistan, and the first thing when I saw when I returned back to Afghanistan as a returning refugee was my own community was IDPs. IDPs are internally displaced people, and we were in a good stable place, in a good district. The business was good, but the one thing we lacked was education, especially girls' education. And I remember walking up to this ministry and I was so full of conviction. I was like, why don't we have school here? And they're like, sit down. The country is at war. You don't get to talk. I was like, how dare you? I'm going to solve this issue on my own. The one thing I think, the funny thing about me is my father instilled a very confident man in me, although I'm a woman. He was like, you can do anything. I was like, I can. And he was like, okay, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, I'm going to start a school. I'm going to make sure I come up with ideas that they cannot reject. They rejected it multiple times. But I was like, I'm going to make sure I get through that. When Learn was founded, we barely had anything. I took $2,000 from my father, never returned it back. I was like, that's a loan. I'm going to return it back, I promise you. And I was like, thank you so much for your donation. We're going to put your name on the report. I did that. You can check the website, I promise you. And then by the end of 2020, we had met a goal of 7,000 students. We had met the goal of, thank you. We had met the goal of 80 teachers. We had run workshops for menstrual hygiene management in 18 public schools. We were thriving. We were knocking on every door. We were meeting tribal leaders. We were doing anything and everything. and I was loving it. 2021 happened. In 2020, my father passed away, and that was the first thing that hurt me a lot and shook me to the core. But I loved Afghanistan so much because I loved him so much, and that was the last legacy that he had left me. And I was so committed to the mission of ensuring that we build Afghanistan. 2021 hits, and we lose our democracy to a regime that doesn't believe in education, that doesn't believe in equality, that doesn't believe in justice. And post that, I was like, you know what, because I had the confidence of a man, I was like, you know what, I'm going to continue doing what I believe in. So a month after the fall, we started our first secret school. I was expecting to walk into that school empty, but I walked into the school with multiple teachers standing there and 100 girls attending. And that was the conviction that the people of Afghanistan had, the girls of Afghanistan had. I was a very well-known person. If something would have happened, a lot of people would have been mad about it. But these girls didn't know anyone, and they showed up because they believed in their education. Slowly but gradually, after multiple arrests, my 2 co-workers are still arrested. They are awaiting trial in Afghanistan. We are now in 6 provinces. We have 700 students. These all girls were from different provinces. They speak different languages. They probably would have never met each other. They run journalism clubs. They're going to be launching a student newspaper soon. They have beautiful science clubs. They write beautiful pieces on cuisine, art, conviction, feminist history, literature, and everything and anything that Afghanistan has and has been. And I'm very proud of them. On other sides, because we don't want to just limit it to where we can reach, we want to make sure we reach everyone, we started a program through a radio partnership. And today, that radio partnership and that radio program reaches almost 6 million people in Afghanistan. Thank you. It covers the refugee camps in Pakistan and Iran, so that we don't lose touch with our roots and our people and the next generation that might return at some point, just like I did. So we do that. But we also run a SIM card program where we're in partnership with a SIM card company that sends out these small bites of learning to people around Afghanistan. And it's almost 2 million subscribers at this point. But here's the funny part. These are people who are grandparents, and they would call us and they're like, can you send us answer to this thing? Can you give us more information about this lesson? How do I talk about self-development with my girls, with my granddaughters? And I'm like, yeah, we're committed people. So we did all of that. But the reason we did all of that is, Afghanistan, as I said, is a very hungry nation to learn, but also very innovative. If you will stop a way for us to get educated, we're going to come with 100 more ways to get educated. And we are doing that. I think we're doing a good job. It's hard. There was a time I was in therapy and I cried for the whole session because I cannot do this. And then I was like, okay, I can do this. And then at the same time, I think right now, Learn hopes to expand to all the 34 provinces of Afghanistan. We hope to do that in all the conflict zones around the world where the education of women have been weaponized and politicized, because no woman needs to fight for the right to education. That's a given thing. We don't need to talk about that. I am so done with ensuring that the philosophy is accepted and understood. No. We need to meet in the 21st century, and we need to understand that how do we make sure that girls can access education, how innovative we are with that, how accessible it is, and how do we make sure that the culture is preserved while we are doing that. And that's one of the reasons we want to focus more on local native languages as we progress towards modernization. So I want to close this with a page or a read from my book. I wrote a book where the first time I met my student, and this was my first school, and I was like a teenager, and I was so full of myself, as I am right now. And I met this student, and she was introduced to me by this principal. So this is what happened. When we walked into the room, the principal pointed to a girl sitting in the front row. She had beautiful hazel eyes and smiled shyly when the principal addressed her. Her eyes were bright and shining. It was clear that she was happy. Seeing her, my mood began to shift. The principal and I sat down, and the teacher showed us some of the girl's writing and pictures that she had drawn. The girl sat up straighter and beamed. She obviously was proud of her work, and so was I. I invited the girl to sit next to me and tell me all about herself. She told me that she wanted to become a painter. She said that she would draw some pictures to give me the next time I visited. I smiled and sat there imagining how great it would be in 20 years when this little girl would be an illustrator, a graphic designer, or an educator. That day ignited a hope in the future of Afghanistan that I protect to this day. I really started paying attention in earnest once she started talking about school. She lit up. She spoke with a confidence I had never felt, not at that age, not even now. She answered my every question perfectly, self-posed. My back pain was forgotten, the bad mood that came with it, her strains somehow faded. She told me where she lived, mentioning one of the poorest parts in Kandahar without electricity or sewage, and talked about how much she liked going to school. I love school. You get smarter here. It was a conversation of equals, despite her age, despite her background. I didn't want to ask her directly about what she thought of the program. I was never scared of feedback before. But with her, it was different. I couldn't bear hearing anything even remotely critical, not from her. Instead, I asked what her favorite part of the program was. It felt safer to imply that there was something to like. The Lion King, she said, without missing a beat, without hesitation. I learned the entire Lion King by heart. The principal and the teacher nodded in agreement as she said it. I really like how he's scared before being brave. I like how he gives up, but then he fights again. But I mostly like the pictures. Pictures are the best part. Of course, I had included the Lion King in the program. He was the only Disney character I truly loved. I still do. I have a pin of him. I have a pin of the Lion King I wear. Stories involving princesses ending up in marriage were harder to identify with. For Afghan women, a wedding was hardly a guarantee of happy ending. It was more of a cliffhanger. You never know what would come next. The Lion King was a nod to our reality. Girls live in a world full of uncles trying to take what's ours. But to hear her single it out was an unexpected recognition of more than a tablet. It was a recognition of me, my efforts, my path. It brought back all those mornings I spent forcing everybody to watch The Lion King. I felt validated by a 7-year-old whose name I never learned. She wasn't done talking though. I love drawing. I'm going to be an artist one day. I wondered how a child of Afghans who always force their kids to become doctors came up with the idea to be an artist until it finally hit me. That's what the principal was saying. It was the tablet, the Lion King illustrations, the best part, the Lion King that made her want to draw. That's why he introduced me to her. That's what the imagination speech was all about. I struggled to take a breath in. I have made an impact, a true impact on someone's life through the program, through that tablet. I was an actual teacher now. She was my very first student. Thank you. All right, questions and answers. Ooh, this is a silent crowd. Ooh, oh, please go ahead.
To hear about your vision. Well,
Sure.
10 years out.
Ooh, yes, I'm a very big picture person. Thank you for asking that question. My vision is in the next 5 years, we are at least done with Afghanistan and Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, and Syria. And we ensure that education through the radio program, through the SIM card program, is something that is accessible in all those regions, but especially in Afghanistan, all the 34 provinces. We expand to the reason we want to do all the 34 provinces is I want to educate 100 leaders per province, and those 100 leaders in 10 years are going to be probably much better than me at what I do. And when I retire, they will be carrying the torch, and then they will be the community leaders that we are seeking. So it's more about future planning for Afghanistan. So in 10 years, these girls will be graduated. They will probably would have gone to colleges, hopefully, inshallah. And then last but not the least, they would be returning back to their communities in one way or the other and leading their communities as teachers. So I have done the math. So if it's 100 girls and 30% of them become teachers, 20% of them become doctors because we love doctors, and then 50% of them end up in administrative, tribal, or any sort of the setting that requires some sort of education. It's going to help us establish a more accessible platform, but also that would be something that people of those communities will rely on their daughters. I kid you not, I woke up this morning at 6. The first time right after I prayed, I got calls from people in Helmand. I'm not from Helmand, but because my tribe lives in Helmand, they called me. They're like, oh, we're struggling with something financially. Can you help us? And I'm not saying this that I'm a very good person, although I am. But that's a guy, that's a man asking me to help him. That's something that normally doesn't happen, but they believe that I can promise and I can stand on my words. So he called me. Right after them, I'm negotiating the release of the 2 co-workers. I was talking to their families. And then right after that, I was talking to another person that I was thinking to make sure that we talk to the local community where I come from, and we establish a clinic there by next year. All these are men who live in Afghanistan, men who go out and still talk to the Taliban. But these are men who believe, and this man who was talking to me this morning, he's like, you might be a woman, but I see so much of your father in you, which in his words was like, well, you are a man in our eyes. So I was like, okay, a beautiful man, I hope. I want all these girls to be that person. I want all these girls to be their tribal leaders, to be their community leaders, for them to be as accessible as I am, for them to be those people that people can depend on, which is asking a lot, I know, but we have to go through this. So that's the long-term, of course, vision. But at the same time, when it comes to numbers, I really want to make sure that I create an endowment, so even if I'm not there, Learn stays, and it's sustainable, and it helps those in need, because one thing I have learned in my life is I cannot stop war, but I definitely can make sure that the education of women is not politicized or weaponized. And then at the same time, my goal is to educate at least 10,000 young individuals who are going to be educators in digital literacy. So let's say in the next 5 years, if everything is banned, you will still have educators who can educate other educators and students online, offline, through different platforms to ensure that the learning continues in one way or the other. And then at the same time, we want to expand our radio program to all the provinces, but in a more meaningful way, where we create a hotline so people can call us back. And the same goes for the SIM card program. So we want to expand our SIM card program to at least 5 million users by the end of next year. And then for the radio program, at least to 10 million users, so that we can include people, parents who are interested in learning to learn more. And I can go on and on. But definitely that is the vision. Thank you. Thank you. Oops. Ooh.
Well, thank you so much for being here and your amazing work you've done. When you read about Afghanistan, the Taliban, and I guess just recently they've said they're not going to educate girls beyond the 6th grade.
Yeah.
So can you share some of the struggles that are on the ground and how you get through those and what kind of help you need?
Yes, of course. I mean, there is not a day that is without struggles. As I said, 2 of my coworkers have been arrested. I was crying in my therapy, and I'm very open about these things. At the same time, there are times where I get calls in the middle of the night where students are telling me, or the parents or the teachers are telling me that they don't feel safe, or the money didn't come through, because Afghanistan is also a sanctioned country, so you cannot send money back home without being flagged. Or people are missing, or somebody's not responding to their cell phone, or somebody didn't show up to class, So those are challenges that happen on a daily basis. Other challenges are, I get an email from a minister who says, we're not going to do anything to you, just come back home. But there's no guarantee about it. I'm like, do you want me home or do you not want me home? And then last but not the least, I think the fact that I put my family and all those families that are going through this, all in this together. I called my mom yesterday and I was talking to her. I was like, I may have to come to Afghanistan. And she's like, I will never I don't know how to say this in English, but mothers, when they feed their kids the milk, they're like, oh, I have now hug on you, or like, you have to ask God to forgive that. My mom's like, I'll never forgive you if you come to Afghanistan back. So that's what every day's conversation with an Afghan parent is right now, where a father has to decide, my daughter wants more education, or do I want to keep her safe? Or do I want a central piece, which is more safer? So challenges are there, and I'm not going to deny that, and it's hard. There are emails we get from Ministry of Education. There are threats that we get from different people. There are threats we get from sympathizers in the West for Taliban supporters. But also, I think I have to end this on this one note is the girls still show up. The teachers still show up. So for me, it's very hard to say, oh, it's very challenging and I cannot do this, where these people are showing up. So we have to put that first. But definitely there are banking challenges, administrative challenges. They won't renew our license. When you're sending money back home, you're flagged. When you're traveling, if you go back to a country that is neighboring country, you get flagged. Your passport is flagged. So all of those are challenges. There are teams that go missing at times, and you have to navigate what happened to them without texting them. There are times you have to, take in investigators just to find what happened to a certain person. That's all the reality of Afghanistan. Thank you.
Hello. You're such a visionary. You speak so much about vision. My question to you is, how do you use your vision to keep you going through all these different trials that you experience? How important is vision to you? And I guess the two sides to that question is, what would you say to a new educator going into a system with struggles as a woman?
That's a very good question. I think the one thing I have learned is you need to have something that is bigger than you to be faithful and have a spiritual belief on it. And I think Islamically we're taught that you have to learn from your cradle until your grave. So you're taught that again and again. And the one thing that people tend to forget about Afghanistan is Ruby was from Afghanistan, People tend to forget that. So Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, he started learning when he was very young on the land of Afghanistan. Gavhar Shah Begum was the founder of the City of Universities, Herat, and she was known as the Pearl of Khorasan, and she founded these like hundreds of years ago. The first, which is also mentioned in the book, the first woman minister of education was from 110 years ago from now in Afghanistan. So we definitely had vision in our blood. We had leaders before me that gave me that. So I think for educators, you have to make sure when you're teaching someone young, they can see themselves in that. And that's one of the reasons I keep on mentioning Muhammad Ali is for someone who is brown or black, I think if they have someone like Muhammad Ali in their books, they will definitely look up to him. It's very important for them to have role models like that. One of the reasons we do feminist literature history in Afghanistan is I want my girls to know that even 3,000 years ago, the land of Afghanistan honored her daughters. It's very important. And for young teachers, I think the most important thing, even if you're teaching math, you have to ensure that they know that they are being honored when they're taught that lesson. And then apart from that, going into this is challenging. It's hard. There are some days that are going to be hard for you. But then in the end, when you reflect, as long as it's worth the challenge, I think you should continue. If it's not, then I think you should walk away. Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to let you know you are extraordinary.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Fisher, you did take one of my questions. But I also wanted to say, how was you able to balance everything, spiritually, mentally, and physically, when things got stressful? How was you able to, go through those things, the hardships?
Thank you so much for asking that question. I was brought up in a house where I was told, oh, you have the privilege of a man, so you have to act like a man. You cannot cry. You don't show emotions. You have to be strong. And then I grew up and I was like, no, I need to show all my emotions right now. I was told you have to wear plain clothes because people won't listen to you. And I was like, no, I need to wear my bling everywhere I go. Because I'm just a girl. So I think I have learned this, that I'm my own person. I'm much more than what I was taught or conditioned to believe. And I take that with pride. There are times where it's very hard to be me because I question myself. I need validation. I seek validation. I call my mom and I'm like, I need advice. And my mom is like, you don't need advice. You need validation on the decision you already made. I'm like, yeah, can you validate that, please? So I do that. There are times where I go to therapy and I don't talk about anything, but I cry. But I do go to therapy, and I think it's important for women like me to go to therapy. Very important. I make sure I take my long walks. I make sure I pray because I need to believe in a higher being than myself to know that I'm taken care of. And then at the same time, I know I'm loved. I am loved because a lot of these people that have showed up is a testament to that. So I'm loved, right? There are people in my life who have stood up with me. There is a man right now in Canada with his family who, on his broken leg, smuggled me from Kandahar to Kabul in a bus because he called me sister. And Islamically, when you call someone sister, you would do anything for them. And he did that. He didn't owe me anything, and he did that. So I'm grateful for all the people around me, the good and the bad. I'm grateful for the way I was brought up because I would love to retain my personality and my identity as I am. I like taking care of myself. There are days that are hard, and I go and rely on people that are nice and are dear to me and who are open to listening to me. There are times where I have physically been going through a lot. I just had a recent surgery in summer, and my family took care of me, and I knew that I was loved. So I think it's very important at an age to realize that there are people who you need to have in your life, like important people around you. The 5 people that are very important. I have multiple, but shukr. And then also, you need to know that you're loved. You need to believe in that, and you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say to you, first of all, that it is just such an honor just to sit here and to hear you speak. But as I sit here, and I know I'm not the only one sitting here who's feeling a sense of, wow, but what can we do?
Yes.
And what should we do to help? How can we assist? What do you need? Is my question to you this morning.
Thank you so much for that question. The first thing I ask for any American who holds an American passport is to call your senators, call your representatives, anyone and everyone that is in the government. Ask them what happened to your 20 years of tax-paying money that went to Afghanistan. Why are they still paying that money? And you're still paying taxes for it, by the way. But today's Afghanistan has banned education for girls. So I think asking that question, reminding them of Afghanistan is important. That's the first thing I would ask anyone. I do that in Europe and I ask it here because that's where the money goes to Afghanistan and there's no accountability in place. The second thing I think is very important that not only learn, but any organization that you find that you believe needs support, needs that volunteering spirit from you, please do that. Please lend a helping hand to them. We have volunteers who teach English to our students. We have volunteers who teach journalism to our students. We have a board member that volunteered for Mental Health Circle right now, and she's developing a mental health circle for all our girls that we call the Healing Circle on Thursdays. And we have been doing this for a year. So I think lending that helping hand, it doesn't always have to be money. Money is always good, by the way. But if you cannot do that, don't feel powerless. The next best thing, or the much better thing, is to lend a helping hand, volunteer your time, offer whatever you can do in your power to ensure that you're doing your best in that instance. So that could be volunteering, that could be sharing about our work or other nonprofits' work in your networks, that could be donating, that could be talking about it, that could be advocacy, that could be calling your senators or congressmen, all of that. But that's all that people need right now. Thank you.
You know, in this country, years ago, it was illegal for African Americans to learn.
Yep.
But so many of them created, and I love the term that you use, secret schools.
Yep.
So that they could liberate themselves mentally, intellectually. And for African Americans in this country, even though it was illegal, learning was a step towards freedom.
Yeah,
in
definitely.
many ways. I'm curious to know what learning means for the young ladies in Afghanistan. What does it symbolize for them? And then ultimately, what do you anticipate that they do with this education for themselves?
Thank you so much for that. I think I also want to recognize the fact that even when we study at the grad school, people like us who come from conflict zones, it's very hard for us to assimilate in a learning environment that is developed for developing nations or countries that have some sort of structures. So I was talking to my Algerian American friend, and we both were like, oh no, but we couldn't take that class. We couldn't take that class. The classes we took were focused more on African American struggles to learn or pedagogy and stuff like that. And the one reason we resonated more with that was because there was so much struggle. There was so much barriers. There was so much discrimination, which could be similarly found in our systems. And we could resonate with that. And we could learn from that. And that could be something that could be shared. And we were both talking about it, and I was like, it's fascinating how we can learn from this, but we can not learn from that, you know. We cannot learn from a case study from Latin America, although as much as we would want to, because we don't even have a structure. But we can definitely learn from, like, you know, the pedagogies of African Americans, because there's a lot that has been in secret. There's a lot of verbal tradition that was taught to the young African American children back in the day, and there were times where they learned in secrecy. So I think it's very important for us to reflect on that, learn from that. And in my work in the past year and a half, I have been reading so much of Audre Lorde. I'm obsessed with her right now. And I have been reading Sister Outsider, and I'm reflecting on it, and I'm like, I so want to be her at some point in my life. Because she is not pleasing anyone in her learning, in her book. And she's talking about the reality of it, and she's saying it as she feels it. And I hope when the girls of Afghanistan finally get educated, they can follow her path. They become her, or they follow her in some way or form. So I think for us, we have to learn from those who have been through this before us. And I think you come from that, and you have believed, you have made a very different future for yourself. So for us, it's much easier to hope now. If they can do it, we can do it. So it's much easier for us to believe in that. And that's what I want from the girls in my own community or my country, or those even in conflict zones around the world. Thank you.
Let's give her another round of applause. Dr. Campbell and Amani, would you mind joining me up here?
Of course.
In recognition of your leadership and dedication to social philanthropy, activism, and pursuits of justice. Congratulations. All right, thank you all so much. Of course, please stick around in conversation and in community this morning. I'm sure Pashtana would be happy to meet many of you and to take pictures. We will be back together next year. Until then, please have a safe and wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you in 2025. Thank you all so much.